Wentworth Woodhouse near Rotherham in South Yorkshire was once one of the great treasure houses of England. It was full of fine furniture and great works of art, most of which have long since departed. Today, it's a vast empty palace, but many hints remain of its past grandeur.
Here in the magnificent marble saloon, there's one element of the decorative scheme here at Wentworth Woodhouse that has survived. Not all the sculptures in the collection at the house were dispersed, and we still have an outstanding collection of marble statuary.
It was the height of fashion in the mid-18th century for young men of wealth to embark upon a grand tour of Europe as part of their education. This would include visits to the classical sites of Rome in particular, and it was here that many of the works of art in the marble saloon were actually made.
These aren't original Roman antiquities. That wasn't necessarily important. Owning high-quality copies of ancient original sculptures was perfectly acceptable, and an enormous industry developed in the creation of grand tour pieces for wealthy patrons to acquire.
The second Marquis of Rockingham was one such wealthy patron, and he, like other rich young men of his day, possessed a mania for the collection of classical-style statuary. All of the statues in the marble saloon are carved in white marble. Downstairs in the pillared hall, the statues in the niches are all plaster copies of antique originals, but the two large statues either side of the grand staircase are made of white marble.
One of these statues is the subject of this film. He's called Germanicus, and he was commissioned in Rome by the second Marquis in the 1750s. The sculptor was Filippo della Valle. He also made sculptures for the Trevi Fountain in Rome, which we still marvel at today. Germanicus was an immensely successful Roman general and politician in the 1st century AD, and he was hugely popular in his day. He was the father of Emperor Caligula and also the brother of Emperor Claudius. So he was regarded by many as the ideal Roman. And it was for this reason that a statue of Germanicus was of such interest to the second Marquis. By acquiring him and other statues of Greek and Roman gods, as well as notable leaders such as Antinous, Alexander the Great, and Julius Caesar, the second Marquis was displaying his taste, his refinement, and his association with classical civilizations, a connection which would have led him to being held in the highest regard by the elite of his age.
Germanicus arrived at Wentworth Woodhouse sometime in the 1760s. He was originally displayed in the marble saloon to one side of the main entrance, but he was moved in 1902 to the building in the gardens that we know of as the Camellia House. He stood here with the companion statue of Antinous until the 1980s, as shown in this amateur video made in the 1940s. The Camellia House fell into disrepair from the mid-20th century. The roof failed, allowing water into the building, which poured over the statues. And this explains the dirty appearance of Germanicus.
Both statues were returned to the house in the 1980s to take up their current positions here on either side of the grand staircase. But there's no denying that however important our statue of Germanicus is, he's in less than ideal condition, and we have a duty to protect and conserve him. We're also always seeking ways to raise much needed funds to support the work we do here at Wentworth Woodhouse. And this is where working in partnership and using 21st century technology comes into its own. Join us in part 2 to learn more about the exciting project we have underway with Germanicus and our plans for how we can help in our fundraising activities.